like about like 30,000 or so. Well, it's not about the money. Yeah, I know. You said I couldn't get another computer. So I got a supercomputer. You just do drastically different things. Excuse me, hold on. I'm insufferable? It's not really that easy. I can't just get rid of it. Oh, it weighs like 3,000 pounds. Do you know how hard it was to get it on and off the trailer? I'm not returning it. It's staying. Oh, you were the computer. Okay. I'll get a lawyer then. Now that that's over. I'm Chris. This is ChrisBits, Let's Restore a Supercomputer from the 90s. How about some background? This is an SGI Origin2000. This was released in 1996. This specifically is an Onyx2 reality monster with a couple of extra processing nodes tacked on the right side of it. You'll get way more information later. I'll fill you in. What this is basically is an interconnected fabric of a bunch of different compute clusters. Each one of these compute clusters housing up to 8 processors across 4 processing nodes. That's the Origin2000, the processing nodes. The Onyx2, up here and over here, are the graphical nodes. They generate and display the graphics output for this. This is a graphical supercomputer as well as processing. Now, whether you've known about these or not up until this point, these are extremely cool systems. I'm gonna tell you a lot about them in this video. You're gonna learn about their architecture. You're gonna learn about freaking everything about them. Half the parts that go into them, how they connect, how they communicate, how they process. And we're gonna start a video series of me disassembling, restoring, reassembling, and eventually powering on, hopefully, a 64 CPU, 8 graphic pipe, Origin2000 supercomputer. Now, when I say supercomputer, I'd like to make some quick clarifications. You may not think of something exactly like this when you originally hear the term supercomputer. This will officially be called a supercomputer because of its CC NUMA architecture. That means coherent cache non-uniform memory access. That is referring to the way in which the CPUs process their instructions and retrieve their instructions. So cache coherent means that the cache across all processors in the system, anywhere from 1 to 128, 1024, no matter what, the cache is duplicated across all of the processors so that they maintain the same access to immediate information. The non-uniform memory access, or NUMA, refers specifically to the way in which the processors communicate to each other, because each processing node has 1-2 processors on it, as well as its own RAM. So that RAM is not necessarily identical across the entire system. It's non-uniform memory access, meaning that each processor has that immediate local RAM in its node, but across the router network and the backplane, it is also able to access the global memory across the entire system, including other nodes and such. CC NUMA, coherent cache non-uniform memory access. We maintain a low-level log of everything going on, and each processor has its own RAM locally. So with that being said, what really makes this different from like a server blade system? You'd say, oh, well, it's just a bunch of compute nodes connected together through a network. It's not really a network per se that you might, well, it's a network, but it's not the sense that you would say like, oh, Ethernet. We're not doing like TCP IP. It is not a network in that sense. I think a better word for it is a fabric. Because really what we're doing is we are bringing the bus out of every single computer and we're running it back into each other. I'm gonna put a block diagram of this machine on screen right now so that you can see. It's interesting. It's a fair bit different from another block diagram that you might see from something like an x86 computer. This architecture was designed from the ground up by SGI and Cray Computing. On this block diagram, you can see that immediately adjacent to the R10000 processors, they each communicate with their own cache. Below that, they communicate with the hub ASIC. That hub ASIC then transposes the global shared memory or the directory memory over to those nodes. From that hub, you can also talk to the XIO, which is just your input-output cards like SCSI, keyboard, speakers, that kind of thing. From that ASIC hub, to come out of each compute cluster, we have to talk to a router, and that router then transposes that whole backplane, essentially, the whole data bus, across a Cray link cable, which we will talk about later. that Cray link cable comes out, whoop, and goes out into the whole network of the rest of the machines. Let me show you around an Origin2000 compute cluster. So right here is just a cable covered door. We can open that up. Right here we see some Cray link cables. These are what transpose the bus out of the machine. If we open it up right here, I'm not sure you can see past that. We see the system controller, a DVD-ROM, the key switch, as well as the display, 5 Ultra SCSI ports. Right here, you can see these status lights. These are 2 of the routers. I believe these are called star routers. There are multiple configurations for routers in these machines. We'll learn about them. These are the kinds of routers required for up to 64 processor configurations. If I take you right next door here, I can simply remove this cover and you can see inside of an Origin2000. If you look in here, you'll see down at the bottom a fan tray. This is where the power supply will go. We're missing a power supply for this machine. And here you can better see the routers a little better. I'll take you around back. Around the back of an Origin2000 here, you can see a little bit more what's going on. Here are our compute nodes. Each one of these cards contains 2 our 10,000, our 12,000, or our 14,000 processors. We'll verify exactly what we have. This is our main I/O out. This is the G variant because this is meant for an Onyx2 system. There's another variant with less I/O. These are K-Town boards, but this would be considered your XIO. So those are all of your expansion cards. You can even fit a PCI expansion box down in there. This is an Onyx2. It doesn't really look much different, except we don't have SCSI boxes, nor do we have a router, and the power supply is a little different. Take you around back. You can see the back looks much different because we contain different cards in here. And here we have the K-Town, which is the bus crossover. We have the geometry engines, we have raster managers, and we have a display output card. Right here, in each of these racks up top, is the system controller, or the MMSC. I want to say it's called multi-module system controller. This is essentially a 486 single board computer crammed into a tiny little box. And we hook up all of our compute clusters to these, and then we interface these with each other. And then these essentially control the consoles and power sequence the entire system, no matter how big you have it. So we're gonna figure these out too. And of course, the MMSC controllers interface with the MMSC displays, which I have 2 of. One's glossy and one's matte. I think they're different. We'll find out. Okay, now that you have a pretty high level overview of the thing, what am I possibly gonna do with it? Well, I'm gonna play games, and we're gonna do some really cool of the era stuff. Obviously, I'm gonna play Quake, Quake 2, Quake 3, Hexen, Doom, Minecraft, well, classic U, written in C, run a little better. I'm gonna host some online game servers. I'm gonna let you remote into this machine on certain scheduled times because of how much power it draws. But I want this to be a public project. I want you guys to be able to use it. I want you to be able to remote in. I want you to play games off it. I want you to enjoy it as much as I enjoy it, because otherwise it just sits in my workshop and looks cool. Okay, so how am I gonna get there? Obviously it doesn't work. It looks like it's in pieces as it stands. You obviously don't see any interconnects. You don't see any cabling. You see missing cards. We're gonna take care of that, one thing at a time. First things first, this thing's pretty filthy disgusting. We need to clean it up. I'm gonna start there. Second things second, I really need to take an inventory of what I have, what I want, and what I need parts-wise. I would say probably about 85–90% of what I need. I have a lot of wants, which are basically cosmetics mostly, such as like these doors I do not have for all of my towers, or these cable combs. These are basically cosmetic things. Needs are Cray link cables. Needs are CPU nodes. Needs are K-Town cables, K-Town connects, things like that. So we'll get those. We might need a couple SCSI drives too. Third, rearrange. These racks are not set up the way I'm gonna have them set up. As you can see, these 2 racks right here, bam, 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 bam. These are 4 Origin2000s. They're basically configured. They never got moved. Like they came like this out of the factory. These 2000s are like, they're configured similarly and they'll work together. They got the doors, they got everything already. This is basically a parts rack. I already acquired some more covers for this to make it look better than it was. We were missing all 3 of these. So you can see 4 out of Origin 2000s. Here's an Onyx2, here's an Origin 2000, and here's a SCSI box. Cool. We can open it. See? The way that I want this set up eventually is Origin 2000, Origin 2000, Origin 2000, Origin 2000, Onyx2s. So the Onyx2s are going to go top and bottom on the end. I told you that eventually I would like 64 processors and 8 graphics pipes as the maximum allowable configuration without having a meta router, which is an entire rack in and of itself. I'll probably never find one ever. You need that to go above so many machines. So basically, to sum this up, I want to move all of my Origin 2000s into individual racks, and I want to move the Onyx2s into an individual rack. Eventually, I want one more rack of 2 Onyx2s, and I want one more rack of 2 Origin 2000s. That'll bring me to 8 2000s and 4 Onyx2s, or a total of 64 processors and 8 graphics pipes. Tremendous. Well, that's it. You've seen it. You're going to keep seeing more of it because you're going to like, comment, and subscribe, maybe even join the Discord so that you can talk amongst yourselves, solve each other's projects, solve my projects. I hope to see you next time in the next episode where I'm going to be cleaning up, disassembling, probably journaling what parts I need and what I have, and then moving stuff around so that it looks right and it'll operate right. Yeah, we'll go from there. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching ChrisBits.